It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into an episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders, of course, on his afternoon drive as we wrap up day 2 of Steelers OTAs. Alan, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. It's another good day. I didn't get rained on.
Always a plus.
Fun watching practice. Good times in the locker room. It's been good, man. It's been good.
I feel like the first thing, this isn't necessarily related to OTAs, and I know that's what we want to focus on, obviously, but probably should mention really briefly that the Steelers will be hosting the 2026 NFL Draft.
Yeah, it was very funny that I got into the locker room after practice, and there was this huge mass of people over in the far corner of the locker room, which, does not generally have a lot of star players in it. Like, Cole Holcomb's over there, but obviously he's not practicing right now. Nick Herbig's over there, who's a good player, but not like a not like a guy that usually attracts like a 12 deep media scrum. So I'm like, what is going on over there? And I walk over and it's like, oh, they're talking to Christian Kuntz about the Steelers and Pittsburgh getting the draft because he's from Pittsburgh. And then I'm like, he wasn't even drafted. Like, what does Christian Kuntz know about the draft?
Right. Yeah, I guess he knows about the city of Pittsburgh and desire to host the draft. But
Christian is a great guy. I just thought it was pretty funny that we're going to talk to the undrafted guy about the draft. Joey Porter Jr. eventually talked about the draft as well, and who was drafted and who was at the draft in person for the first round in Kansas City, and he did not get drafted, and then came home to get picked by the Steelers at pick 32. So I'm sure he had some insight. Nick talked to him, not I, but good stuff. Hey, I think we've kind of talked on here before about our thoughts about going to the draft. I guess I'm gonna have to now because it's gonna be my job to. But man, that does not sound like fun. So we'll see. I'm also just very curious about the weather. Man, outside in Pittsburgh in late April is just a total roll of the dice, always. So
absolutely. I'm still curious about all the logistics of it, where the way it's going to be set up and everything. I know that there's been some on the surface level stuff in terms of what the plans are going to be, where the stage will be and stuff like that. But I just can't wait to see what it actually looks like laid out. I don't necessarily have interest in going myself, but I'm excited for, the local economy, the people that do want to go there and everything like that. There's certainly, benefits to this thing coming to Pittsburgh. I'm excited about that. Just for me personally, not necessarily something that I'm looking forward to going to.
This might be a thing where, if we're, we're already pretty well all hands on deck situation for covering the draft. Maybe to call up Zachary Smith to be our red carpet reporter, just
red
have
carpet
you there
reporter.
talking about the fits of the guys, on draft night, the crazy suits that guys wear. I feel like that would certainly, and then just to go talk to the raving drunk lunatics that have decided that what they want to do is go to the draft. I feel like that would be very much in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, all of a sudden now I'm in. You got me because now I'm just thinking the wardrobe. I'm going to be trying to match or one up what I think these guys are going to look like myself, and then we'll kind of have a litmus test. So now I'm in. All right, we got it.
I think Zachary Smith, NFL Draft red carpet reporter, is something that I need to make happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we go. 2026. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here.
We've got some time to figure out the logistics on our end, but I feel good about this idea right now.
I want to know how you feel, and the people want to know how you feel, mainly about Cory Trice. I feel like that was the player we were asked about the most, Alan. Yesterday we said in the comments, let us know what you want to know about, who you want to know about. Alan will do his best to get some info, and boy, did we on Cory Trice today.
Yeah, man, it was cool. I took some video. I went over to the DBs, watched Cory. He's working behind the starters. I would characterize him as vaguely second team There's a lot of guys in that group, along with Darius Rush and Anthony Averett and things like that. But this is why you can't beat a live podcast. I am driving on the south side. I'm on Carson Street right now. I'm driving to Acrisure Stadium for an event later tonight, leaving the south side. And I am like 99% sure that I just watched Montravius Adams get a parking ticket on the side of and he's not in the car. So like we are breaking news that he is not even aware of yet. But I just saw the meter maid with the little, now maybe it's like a 2-hour thing, you check the time, make sure you come back. But this is breaking news that you can't get anywhere else other than the Steelers Afternoon Drive podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We don't know, obviously, fully what's going on. All the best to Monty. Hopefully, we'll see how that plays out if we find out any more information regarding that. But that's wild.
Tomorrow's task for the locker room will be to go ask Montravius Adams if he got a parking ticket, because I'm pretty sure I just watched it happen.
And I can't wait. I know once this goes out, the comments are going to have a field day with that specific. We have a guy that watches my guy Jake Wade, Steeler Wade Show. I'm sure you see him in the comments all the time. Yeah. But I guarantee he even is like real good about where he's commenting at, like time stamping what he's watching when he's commenting. We're going to see that timestamp on there with him laughing it up during that. But all the best to Monty Adams. Hopefully he's able to get that situation taken care of. Back to Cory Trice on today.
So I got the request for Cory Trice content. I got the video. There's a little bit of video on my Twitter feed of just him jogging around, and I went over watched the corners, and then I did talk to him after practice. And so really good conversation with Cory. He said that he's still wearing a brace. You can see in the video I put up on Twitter, and he is not cleared for contact right now, but he plans to be for the start of training camp. And man, you could kind of hear Cory's pretty laid back guy. You could really hear the excitement in his voice to be back on the practice field. He said it was like the first day of school. Really has a lot to prove, wants to show that he can, be a starter in this league, and that, the promise kind of that this was a guy, he was a 7th-round pick for the Steelers, but mostly because of injury. Like when people evaluated the tape, people thought he was going to be closer to like a 4th-round pick, something like that. And so that there's a pretty good player in there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think still not 100% yet. I mean, he said he still has some work to do, and he has done this before. He had a knee injury in Purdue in 2021, and he feels like this time around, like he can come back stronger than he was a year ago. And so I think he set some pretty high goals for himself. And it's really cool to watch him come back on the field there, because it was tough for him as a rookie, and to watch him in the locker room and to be hopping around on the sidelines on crutches while Joey was going out there and doing the things that he did. And I put this on Twitter too, but man, like I thought Cory was the better of the two players this time last year. Like I really did.
Yeah, I remember having those conversations.
So to see Joey kind of go and take off, he said it was good for me to watch him do that, because now I know I can do that. And and so that's awesome to hear that he has that mindset about it.
Sure.
Definitely a player that I think, you look at the way the Steelers shaped this offseason, and they kind of went out of their way to not block him out of getting a role. Like, they got Dante Jackson, but it's only a 1-year deal. They didn't bring in a bunch of like veteran backup cornerback types. Anthony Averett, they signed up to a tryout, but I mean that's about as minimal of an investment as you can make. And they lost, Patrick Peterson obviously was inside and outside, but he played a lot of outside corner. Levi Wallace played a lot of outside corner. James Pierre was there, and they didn't replace any of those guys. It's just Cory Trice and Darius Rush. I think the Steelers are showing a tremendous amount of faith in those two young guys and their abilities. And so, man, I think the audience was on point here. That's a guy worth being excited about right now.
I was just saying, that same breath, fellow 2023 draft classmates, Darius Rush competing for a spot certainly as well. And to your point, they didn't block those guys from carving out roles for themselves in 2024. So, obviously, I think more eyes probably on Cory Trice coming back from that injury, losing his entire rookie year. But anything that you can take away from Darius Rush, if you had a conversation with him?
Yeah, I talked to Darius today as well. I think Darius might look better right now. Certainly looks, what a tough rookie year for him, right? To get drafted by one team, then cut, then claimed on waivers, then get put on a practice squad, then get plucked by another team. Played dime, which was nothing he had ever done before. I think, obviously, I've seen Darius Rush play a good bit, not just in practice but in games. But I think he looks better than I've ever seen him in person right now. The way he's breaking on the ball and being disruptive. I thought really, for me, he was one of my sort of guys that I wanted to highlight coming out of practice today because of the way he's been playing. And he's another one of those guys I'd say kind of characterizing that second-tier group at corner. Great conversation with him. The thing that stands out to me about him is I get in the locker room as I'm surveying the horde around Christian Kuntz. Danny Smith comes barking in and says, "Where's Darius Rush?" And so, I think he's going to have a big special teams role. We talked a lot about the new kickoff rule. He's pretty excited about the creativity there, and he said it's like a whole other playbook now. Like where before you might have like 3 or 4 blocks and a couple different things you may be trying to do. With this, like it's almost like it's a whole offense just on the kick return play, and he's pretty excited to see how it plays out. I think he's going to be a core special teamer for the Steelers, in addition to being one of the backup corners, and we'll see if he keeps that. I think right now, I think he'd have that dime role that Joey Porter started in last year. I think that would be Darius Rush right now.
Okay, cool. I think too, going through the YouTube comments from yesterday, I think that there's always going to be just a high level of intrigue with rookies because it's like the first time that we're seeing them. So the same person here wanted to know about the Wilsons, Peyton and Roman Wilson, and how they look so far. They said Peyton for other reasons because obviously of like the injury history, not necessarily last season that he's coming back from, but everybody knows about him only having one ACL, the lengthy injury history. So what have you taken away from their first 2 days of OTAs for both those guys?
I'll start with Roman. Joey was asked about which wide receivers have stood out to him today, and he went right to Roman Wilson. I don't think that he's been flawless. Like, I think that the interesting thing that I would say about Roman Wilson is that he's shown a lot of promise and like not been anywhere near perfect either. Like he can, I think he can be really good, and he's very much like I would have thought about Joey Porter a year ago, where like you're seeing some hiccups right here, but you're also seeing like the traits that if he cleans those up, man, he's a player that could be really good, and like he's gonna beat some people, and he's gonna make some people look silly, and I think that's pretty enticing when you look at a wide receiver room that just doesn't have that many playmakers. So I think Roman has looked, I would call it like an up and down week, but more up than down, and certainly has made some notable plays. Peyton Wilson, it's really hard to characterize linebackers. They're not hitting anybody, so I would say
but there's no like restrictions on him physically or anything. Like he just looks, he's doing everything that everybody else does. Yeah.
I would say that is a position where until you know what you're doing, you can't look fast. Like a wide receiver, Roman Wilson, you go tell him to go run a whip or go run an out or go run a 9 or a 7, whatever. Like he knows what to do. Linebacker play is about instincts and reading and reacting. I think until you get your knowledge on point, it's hard to look fast. You're not going to turn heads with your athleticism, even if you are extraordinarily athletic. If you're still trying to figure out where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. It was really cool. I spent some time over with Aaron Curry and that group today, and just watching him as a coach, man, I think he's a really good coach. And it was cool to watch, like, the kind of different approaches. These, like, Patrick Queen will do something one way, and Landon Roberts will do something completely different. You know, and they're still executing the drill the way they're being told, but their approaches to things, because their skill sets are very different. And it's cool kind of watching how Peyton Wilson fits into those molds, and you can kind of see him picking their brains about things and communicating. I was watching the secondary, but the linebackers come over and they work on, like, passing off coverages and things like that. You can already tell he's a very confident communicator. I think that's going to be a part of his game that people are going to like right away.
Well, let's go to Patrick Queen next, because just like aesthetically, the way that he looks, he's caught my eye. I mean, he's got the 6 chain with another chain under it, the visor that he wears. Like, he's a presence, certainly on the field. And you
his
said that you were able to have a
shoes
conversation.
are a color that sort of defies description. It's neon or fluorescent, certainly, but it's not really yellow. It's not green. It's highlighter, I guess, is the way I would go with it. Yeah, they're interesting. He's an interesting guy. Really, my first time getting to talk to him. It was a really cool conversation. He also intercepted Russell Wilson today and took that to the house, and so that was nice. But I think he's I think the thing that stands out to me is he's so freaking fast. Like, just quick in his movements.
Well, and to your point, what you were saying about with Peyton Wilson, until you get everything down, it's hard to look fast. I feel like Patrick Queen is a perfect example of that from what we saw. Like, everybody knew the type of athlete that he was coming out of LSU and that he could play fast in the NFL once he got it down. But you really didn't see that until he kind of came into his own and started understanding the NFL more. Like, his rookie year, you really didn't get to see all of that athleticism on tape because he didn't have this whole thing down yet.
Yeah. And then, like, but man, I'm seeing it in practice right now.
Yeah.
Like, he is fast, man. And I think also a good communicator. You know, there were some, like, weird conversations in Baltimore about him picking up the defense, or kind of needing to have Roquan Smith there to hold his hand and, like, stuff like that. And man, I don't know. I saw him pretty heavily engaged with Minkah Fitzpatrick in a discussion today about the finer points of the defense. And I'm not getting the sense that this is a guy that's not going to be able to pick it up, and not only pick it up, but kind of be a guy that helps everybody else be where they're supposed to be and do what they're supposed to do as well. So, yeah. I think he's a smart guy. Really great conversation about just the transition to the Pittsburgh locker room and learning what that's all been about. But I think he's the kind of player that it's not just the look, the visor, the chain, the shoes, but just watch what he does on the practice field. He gets your eye right away.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, he's one of the players that I'm really looking forward to watching when we transition from the football and shorts to training camp. So just that linebacker group in general, though, to be honest with you, I'm very excited to watch. I feel like it's almost worth having a conversation on a day-to-day basis, and the comments kind of lead us down this path next anyway, is with the offensive line. You know, we obviously had the conversation about it looking pretty much status quo yesterday. But we've like kind of anticipated that at some point we're going to see Broderick back on the left and Troy Fautanu on the right. Could we see Troy Fautanu on the left? I mean, what was your takeaways now going from yesterday to today, if anything was different?
Yeah, I mean, Broderick was on the left today. He worked left and right. There's some video of that on my Twitter feed of Broderick and Dan Moore trading off at left tackle, while Troy Fautanu was at right tackle. And I think, look, it seems clear, you know, the kind of thing we talked about yesterday was that the Steelers seemed determined to build a couple of tackles that could play either spot. And I think that is the plan that they're going forward with these guys. Troy Fautanu told Nick that he expects to play the left side as well at some point this spring, that he's not just going to be a right tackle. And so I think you're going to get two guys that have had some experience doing both, and then we'll see which, you know, I think the fan base has probably put Dan Moore aside to a greater extent than the coaching staff has. I think he is going to be a part of this process, and they're going to make sure that these guys are the 5 best linemen are going to play, and that they have the capability that whichever they decide the best 2 tackles are, they can play. It doesn't matter. They can all understanding that for whatever reason Dan Moore has had a hard time playing right tackle and his limited exposure there, that no matter what else happens, that they can put the best 2 out there.
Is that something that you expect to see them try? Like, are they just going to throw that idea away though, or are they going to keep trying to get him somewhat acclimated on the right side, or is that just like not even a project that they're willing to do at this point?
I don't even think it's a project they're willing to do at this point. I mean, he's not a part of their future anymore. I don't know why they would bother to invest in him in that way at this point. I mean, he's just going to be a left tackle, and that's going to be that. And he's here for 1 more year, and they're hoping that he doesn't have to start, because I'm sure they would much rather their back-to-back rookie first-round picks earn those jobs. So,
yeah,
it's not a problem if Dan Moore's a backup and can only play left tackle, as long as the other 2 can both play right. I don't see a problem with that. I do think that, like, if these guys both come in and look great, the idea of a trade is not totally crazy. Something similar to what we saw with Kevin Dotson and Kendrick Green last year could happen, but we'll see. I mean, backup tackles are still pretty valuable.
Mm-hmm. And on the interiors,
backup tackles with that much starting experience.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's why we were talking about yesterday, even if his future isn't in Pittsburgh, he's going to get paid by somebody else to go be a starting left tackle somewhere else. Moving to the interior, though, I think an interesting storyline to watch is with Nate Herbig. Obviously battling with Zach Frazier, trying to hold him off as the team's starting center. But is he going to exclusively work at center because of that? Or is he still going to be, the primary interior swing guy? That's what I'm interested to watch.
So far, he is pretty focused on center. And when you're in the number 1 center, that's what you're going to be. He said he's kind of taking it day by day. Obviously, he's been around the league long enough to know when a guy gets drafted in the 2nd round, eventually they want him to start, But I think Herbig is – look, I mean, Omar Khan said over and over again all offseason how much faith he had in Nate Herbig, and now he's getting a chance to prove that he should have was right to have that faith. So the Steelers aren't going to hand rookies jobs. They're going to have to earn it. And I think Nate Herbig is a good offensive lineman. I don't think that maybe center is his best position. We talked a little bit about the differences between center and guard and some of the challenges of really focusing on the center position right now. But he can play, and so Frazier's going to have to be good to unseat him, and that's certainly going to be something to watch. But you're not going to see Nate Herbig being the swing guard while he's the number 1 center. One thing has to happen before the other one will. So we'll see how Nate Herbig takes that on. And, they know Nate Herbig can play guard anyway. So they want Mason McCormick and Joey Fisher and whoever else to get those reps instead.
Sure. That makes sense. I want to ask you about
Joey Fisher, by the way. Congratulations in order to him and his family.
There we go. That's on a much different note than the Monty Adams news that we had to talk about at the beginning. So congratulations to Joey Fisher. I got to ask you about my boy, Pat Freiermuth. I feel like there's a ton of buzz in terms of what he's going to do within this offense, and kind of, I don't want to say similarly to the cornerback situation, but there really hasn't been another pass catcher brought in to really take away a ton of those targets. Behind GP, you got to feel like Pat stands in line pretty well right now with the status of this roster to be number 2 on the team in targets and fill kind of that Kyle Pitts role in the Arthur Smith offense. What have you seen early? Have you gotten to have a conversation with our boy Pat so far at OTAs?
I haven't talked to him extensively, but Nick did twice in a row. He's talked to the media 2 days in a row, so now I feel like the next person that goes with the Pat should just get told off, in principle. And I hope it's not me, but
he wouldn't do that.
I'll respect it. He's been busy, but he talked to Nick for a long time today about taking on that Kyle Pitts role. And look, I think I don't know how to say this in I think he has an elevated level of seriousness about the business that he's going about right now.
Okay.
Not to say that he didn't take things seriously before at all, because he did. I just get the sense that this is a guy that understands the opportunity that is in front of him, the importance of that opportunity in the scope of his career. When you're talking about installing a new offense with an offensive coordinator that loves to throw the ball to tight ends, he's clearly the best receiving tight end option on the team. Not only that, he's probably no worse than the second best receiving option on the team, period. And it all comes in a contract year. And while Pat's a funny guy, as I'm sure you've seen when he was here with us and on the round 412 and other places, I think there's some business happening there. And I think as long as he can stay healthy, I think that's another place where, like, I'm buying stock in Pat Freiermuth for this season. Like, I think you're looking at a player that is ready to put up some big numbers.
Great. A deal for him in a fantasy league as well, just because. So he was very excited to learn of that. So I agree wholeheartedly. Bias aside, I felt like even before, he came on here and came on my other podcasts and stuff, that it was trending that way for Pat Freiermuth in 2024. The last guy that I want to ask you about, and this is also somebody in the comments was curious because of the side-by-side videos that we could see between Justin and Russell. Somebody said, this is going to sound weird, but am I crazy to think that Justin's lower half is the most impressive I've seen on a quarterback? Mainly his legs.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified there with the mainly his legs part, because that could have gotten weird in a hurry.
I mean, on this podcast, let's be honest.
Hey, there are scouts that will just talk about a guy's butt for like hours.
Yeah.
That is like a fascination of them. I think that I don't know about the most impressive I've ever seen on a quarterback. I'm trying to think about what, like, Donovan McNabb was thickly built dude. That's the one that really comes to mind if you're talking about just like super impressive physiques for guys at that position. The thing about Justin Fields that I think physically has really impressed me is that the athleticism seems pretty effortless. Like there's like it comes easy to him. There's not a lot of straining going on for him to look really, really good. And so, like, somebody asked me today, like, do you think Najee Harris has looked faster? Because there was a report out there that Najee's trimmed down a little bit and he's been hyper focused on his fitness. And I'm like, I don't know if you've seen him run hard yet. So like, I it's not fair to even judge. Like, nor is that a dig at Najee for not running hard. Like, it's OTAs. It is not the time for hard running. Like, but on that note, like, I'm watching Justin Fields kind of jog around pass rushers that know they're not allowed to touch him, that aren't even really being blocked by their offensive linemen. And it's like, oh, he's even fast when he's not even really moving fast. Like, I think that's the thing that really stands out to me physically. Throws a nice ball. I think we kind of all knew that. But I think that's the part of his athleticism, maybe more than his size. I don't know that he's – I don't know. That's an interesting question. I think I'm going with, if you ask me to name just a extremely well-built quarterback with a very sturdy base, I'm going to Donovan McNabb first. But
yeah, that's a great poll.
I think Fields is more explosive and a better athlete overall.
Yeah.
Like he just – his first step and he gets to a spot very quickly. Like, it's when he's stepping up from the pass rush, it's like plant gone. Like that, like it just happens instantaneously. I think there's he's really fun to watch in that regard.
You know what I've really enjoyed about the last few minutes of this podcast as you were talking there is literally seeing Acrisure Stadium in the background during that. Like,
well, the great thing is that I don't know where I'm supposed to be parking, and it's on my phone. So
yeah, you
I'm
just went
just
past the
literally
Taco Bell and a
just
Wendy's,
driving,
and yeah,
just driving around the north side right now.
there we go. All right, well, Alan, other than on the north side and at Acrisure Stadium, tell the people they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH Steelers now. On Twitter, you'll have all my videos and clever tweets from practice, so make sure you get those. And then SteelersNow.com, all the good stuff from me and Nick, and make sure you get over there. And if you want those emails, the stories directly to your email, you can sign up for that on the little right sidebar of that. Put your email in there. It doesn't cost a penny. You can decide whether you want everyone individually, one a day, or 1 or 2 a week, and that's it's out there for you as well. Like and subscribe to YouTube channel. Hit that bell for notifications. We've got sights and sounds. We've got practice reports. We've got interviews in the locker room. We've got this wonderful show that is on IMDb, as we learned this year, this week. We are listed on IMDb. I'm. We're just we're very,
that Emmy's coming home soon.
Yes, very close. The sports Emmys were actually last night, and I can't believe we didn't get an invite.
It's 2025 is really going to be when I think that happens. Finally, to be honest. Yes, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit us in the comments. Again, let's do the same thing as day one. Anything that you guys want to know about at OTAs, give us what you want to hear about. Alan will try to get the information for you. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe if you're listening somewhere else. Of course, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. You can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. You can also find me on the red carpet of the 2026 NFL Draft, apparently. So, but until then, for Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in, taking the ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.